Hello again. Welcome back to our class. So this is chapter two that we're talking about ethics in public speaking, and then this is the really important topic for our students, where you will be learning on the do and don'ts in public speaking rules, and then you also will be you able to understand the boundaries between free speech and hate speech. And I hope that if you are doing for your public speaking a letter, you know what are the regulations or the best practice that you can take before you do some speeches. Right. Generally speaking, ethics is a philosophy in dealing with the issues right or wrong in a public speaking. So this is talking more on a moral. Yeah. So if you are in my online class, so this is the rules that you need to follow. On this week, we will try to cover on this subtopic. Yeah, so today we will only cover on ethical and public speaking, plagiarism and public speaking. And by the next class, we will cover on listening in public speaking and why, what are the reasons that it is important to listen in public speaking, what are the causes of poor listening, and how to become a better listener. Okay, so the importance of ethics. What should be considered in ethical speaking? So we as a speaker, we will question ourselves when the course of action is moral or immoral. Is it fair or unfair, or is it honest or is it dishonest? So basically, we always encounter this question in our life when we want to do certain things that involving persuading people, or instead we're talking about giving a speech to the other people. And as the Greek philosopher Plato said, all public speakers will be truthful and devoted to the good of society. Yet, history tells us the power of speech is often abused, sometimes with disastrous results. So just look at the Adolf Hitler. As you know, Adolf Hitler was unquestionably a persuasive speaker. Okay, this is what we call the power of speech by but in the purpose of the negative. And that is if you know Adolf Hitler, his oratory galvanized the German people, but his aims were horrifying and his tactic is despicable. So we want the world of giving a speech will be harmonious and ethical as possible. And another example of poor ethical as a public speaker is an example of the politicians, uh, politicians that making an ethical campaign by twisting facts, posting shady business practice, spreading rumors, impending indictment, unfairly cause imbalance against set of ethical standard. And in this chapter, we will focus on these two very common uh, ethical act done by the public speaker. Okay, what is name calling? So just now we were talking about name calling and plagiarism. So the first one is name calling. Name calling is the act of the use of language to defame, to demean, or to degrade individuals or group. Okay, it's usually will be posing or harm the personal dignity. And then you must understand that language is also a destructive social force, and it can encourage prejudice, hate crimes, civil rights violations. For example, we usually will be encountered by the American apartheids, with people says nerd for the African American nigger, or as for the I mentioned just now, fag, or also other people saying another the color skins of a race. Yeah, for example, red skin, blacks. So this is American epithets and using name calling. This is are demean and degrading individuals in the society. In Malaysia perspective, in Malaysia epithets, usually you will be hearing of this. For example, kafir, pendatang, China. So these are the example that you usually will encounter, and these are actually consider name calling. Okay, so epithets is by name or a descriptive term, word or phrases accompanying or occurring in the place of a name and having entered common usage. So usually there will be accompanying this one entity to another element that are same. Okay, name calling or free speech. So this is the issues that happen in our in our surrounding. Yeah, for example, people that put a slurring words at religious, at the people's belief, or at the people's practice, such as Muslim. They have some people are calling this terrorist, or Chinese. They also have trending that says that mentions on the name calling COVID-19 spreader, or some of other words that actually spreading the hate speech, because the hate speech is a form that goes to the core issues in society. For example, racism, homophobia, and masculinity. So you will be encounter this in your daily life, especially as we have done a tremendous legality and acquisitions or enforcing of court and law, and yeah, we're talking about the respect that will happen in the public environment, or in the especially in the virtual speech, what we call in the online platform, online social media. And this free speech, or so-called free speech does have abusive language that the speaker used to silence the opposing voice. So as we can look at this an example from the UIT confession, some of the words is might be looking for the right of the student to have a free speech, but some of it is sounding slurring and then demeaning to the certain society or certain party in the organization. So this is will be considered one is harming to the persons, what we call the career. It might be harming to the reputations, the image, and the persons that can be also considered a hate speech. Second of issues that been discussed in ethics in public speaking is plagiarism. So sometimes as a speaker, you have to be careful when you use an ideas in your speech. We have four types of plagiarisms that usually we use. One is global plagiarism, second patchwork plagiarism, number three incremental, and lastly plagiarism through the internet. What is global plagiarism? It is a stealing of speech entirely from a single source and passing it on as one own. So this is majorly you took all of the information and make it as yours. Yeah? And second is patchwork plagiarism. So patchwork plagiarism is stealing ideas or language from two or more three sources and passing them as one's own. So this one you have combinations of sources in your speech, and then you actually, without giving a credit and ignoring to the what we call to the original of ideas between these multiple author, and you combine it without the permission. So this is what we call patchwork, because you took in information from more than one sources or from one of people. And third is incremental plagiarism. So incremental plagiarism is failing to give credit for a particular parts of speech that are borrowed from other people. For example, quotation and paraphrase. So you forgot to cite the original author in your speech as well be considered as incremental plagiarism. So whatever you want to do, what we call a borrowing or using recycle others' idea, you have to do some quotation and paraphrase in order to cite the original worker and to give credit back to the original author. Number four is plagiarism through the internet. So this is very common among students. So when you actually taking information from the website, but you forgot to cite the reference or the website link of that information you borrow in the website. And as a student, you always have to be careful when you want to um, reuse or recycle some of the points or information that you extract from the website. If you are failed to do so, you will be penalized by plagiarizing other works, and it might be harm to your study. Okay, and how to cite the internet source? Of course, you need to have this basic component. You have to put the title of the internet document. You have to put the authors and organization responsible for the document, the date of which document was last updated, and then the date on which you access the site. So before this, we were talking about quotation. So in your own what we call in your own understanding, when you quote a people works, meaning that you're giving uh, acknowledge or credits back to the original author. So what is quotation? This is the act of giving a credit to a author. This is the example of quotation. For example, there is an evidence that Dennis Walker with a high compared to low level of anxiety, sensitivity, fear of anxiety are the greater risk for a panic problem. In bracket, speech 2003. So this is giving a quote from the original author speech and the date of the works have been created. Paraphrase. So paraphrase is to restate or summarize an author's idea in one's own words. For example, panic attacks are usually happen among addicts and people who has fear, anxiety. So this is you paraphrase the author's idea, but you don't. You can also put in a side to the authors and the year of the work have been created. And do not forget, you have to put this reference at the bibliographic part that usually will be put at the last page of your document. So you will be paraphrasing and giving credits back to the original author. So when we're talking about plagiarism and how to hinder from plagiarizing, we will write a reference. So in your speech, when you borrowing, recycle, use other people's works and ideas or information, you have to write a reference or bibliographic list for all information you use. As for the books, so in one example of how to write the book uh, reference, this is APM reference 6, usually in our UITM, we will use APS style for our referencing. Okay, this is a typo. So this is the component that you need to put in your APA reference. First, you have to put the last name, the year, the title, the book or journal, the volume of the book, and the page number you use for the book. So these are the example. And when you're writing a reference for internet source, these are the components that to be put in the MPS style referencing. Because you have to put the last name, first name, year, title, date of your search of the information, the volume, the web address, or the uniform resource locator that you access and extract the internet. So these are the example of how to write MPS style referencing for internet source. So that is the end of chapter 2, and let's recap what you have learned. So today you have learned on the ethical or the public speaking. We were talking about the use of name calling and plagiarism in public speaking. So in the name calling is the act of using some of the language to defame and to demean or to degrade individual or group. As for plagiarizing is to give what we call to give a credit for a original author and to acknowledge the works of them in your work. Plagiarism in public speaking. Also, there are 4 types of plagiarism in public speaking. One is global plagiarism. Second is textbook plagiarism. Number 3 is incremental plagiarism. And number 4 is plagiarism at the internet. So I hope that today you have learned something for your public speaking, and then you get ready for the next chapter, which is listening. Thank you.